Bhosle sir, for allowing me and giving me an opportunity to share my research areas with all of you. So I once again welcome all the participants to this 1 week faculty development program on unlocking innovation, exploring research innovation and patents. So my talk will be basically, since this is a late afternoon session, so what I will do is I will just start with the background of my talk and so the background, so the talk will be on decision support systems for sustainable technologies, and why it will be a practical approach because I have included few hands-on session. It will be interesting down the line as we proceed, so that it does not become a boring session. Okay, so I will try to do as best as far as possible and do justice to this talk as we go down the line. So myself, Dr. Divya Zindani, has already introduced by Nitin sir. So a brief of about where actually I am working. I am working at SSN, and currently it is situated in Chennai and Tamil Nadu, so near Pondicherry. Okay, so we are just we have an IRF ranking of 45, and overall we stand at 80 in the present NIRF ranking, and also we have been accredited A++ by NAC. So most of all the other departments are NB accredited. So the present talk will consist of the following contents. It will be a brief introduction. I will give you on what are decision support systems and how decision support systems are actually taken care of using the decision making tools. Then we will see what are the basic components of decision making tools and what are the various applications of decision making tools. And then we will take one of the decision making tools that I have been working on. Majorly on, that is TODIM, that is the TODIM approach. So I will just try to give some hands-on session also using one of the case study on one of the green materials that we researched in the present context. So what basically is the relevance of decision support systems and why should we use it? So basically decision support systems can be implemented using your multi-criteria decision making approaches, and they have been designed systematically so that you can designate or you can appraise some of the alternatives, or you can classify the alternatives, or you can rank the alternatives either on the basis of your subjective preferences, or you can use the methodology. So most MCDM methods actually they deal with discrete alternatives. That means you'll be having finite number of alternatives like 10, 12, 20. So if you go with the experimentation, like down the line, we will see how we did it for like 20 alternatives also. Okay. So now you need to compare these alternatives. How these alternatives will be compared? This will be compared on the basis of certain performance measures, and these are nothing but these are known as your criteria values. Okay, and these criteria values can be cardinal or ordinal. By cardinal and ordinal means you can have a specific value. For example, if you go with the tensile strength, if you go with the cost of the material, they can be quantified. There are some data. For example, if you talk about how well is the surface finish, or if I ask you, you want to buy a car and luxury is one of the performance measure for you, can you quantify it? Definitely you cannot. You will not be able to do it, but you will be able to say it some vague terms like excellent luxury should be there, good luxury should be there. That is how you'll be able to define it. So the information, it could be defined exactly as that I said about tensile strength or the cost, or it can be fuzzy, as I spoke about the example of your car or a vehicle, if you talk in terms of the luxury. So the modern MCDM methods that are there, they enable the decision makers. They can deal with any kind of information that is available. So what is the common procedure and how do you implement it? So as you can see on the right hand side of this screen, you first of all initiate and you define a system with an objective. You find out the criteria that actually bothers you or that is actually affecting the system. By criteria, as I told you, that is known as the performance measures. Then you seek the alternatives for which you want to rank the alternatives. then you obviously assign the weights. Obviously for you it may be the cost that might be important when you are purchasing the car. For me it might be the mileage of the car that is important for me. So that is what it is known as. You just set the criteria weights, or you just set the priority to the alternatives as well as to the criteria or to the performance measures. Okay, and then you use any of the MCDM method that is available, and finally you find out the optimal alternative. And if it is feasible, for example, there might be situation where a particular model of the car is not available, it is out of stock, then what you do, you just go down with the second alternative or the second model of the car, and you say, yeah, that is acceptable to me. So ranking in any way is very it is a judicious and a scientific approaches are being applied for it. Okay, so what are the classifications? So you can see on the screen, so many decision making tools have been evolved out. There are multi-attribute decision making tools. There are multi-objective one. As you can see, gray numbers are also there. And then obviously fuzzy based tools are also there if you try to do that. Okay. So there are certain uh, what you can say is there are some tools that can work on only the some quantified data only. Okay, so these are the list of the tools, and these are some of the major tools that have been already been being applied. So what is in the previous slide, you can see there are two bubbles. One is MADM and another is MODM. So what is the difference between MADM and MODM? These are all part of your decision support system. For example, MODM means multi-objective decision making. Now, if you are having two objectives, for example, you have to have a bicycle, it should be light and it should be having many gears. Okay. So what you do is you need to calculate the trade between the weight and the number of gears that you want. So for example, you take that because the number of gears, if you increase, it will add on to the weight of the bicycle. So what you do is you transfer then your utility or the criteria, that is the performance measure. For example, you say that a bike that is heavier than 15 kg, it is of no use for me. I want a bike that lies between 15 to 8 kgs at least. Okay, it is between this weight. So let's say that again, if you talk in terms of gears, you will say that a bike with less than 3 gears, it means no utility to means, but I want a bike or a cycle that has more than 18 gears maybe. So that is your own subjective preferences. So you now what you do is, now depending upon your preferences, what I said is the gears might be important to you or the weight of the bicycle might be important to you. Okay, so that is where what is the weight of the utilities here. So you then would get the optimal weight and the gears your bike should have by maximizing your utility. So your utility, that is your usage, is where your objective function is, and it has to be minimized in context of your optimal weight as well as the number of gears. Okay, now you go to a bike shop and you ask whether they have a bike that suits your utility or your needs. So this is what MODM is all about. If you go about MADM, that is multi-attribute decision making. So what you go is you go at a bike shop and you write down the weight, the number of gears each bike has. For example, 1 kg bike is having so many gears, 2 kg bike is having so many gears. Okay, and now you transfer your utility. You will similar your preference is to have a bike that is not heavier than 15 kg and not lighter than 8 kg, and also there should be gears between 3 to 18. Okay, now you weight the different utilities. Say for example, weight is weighing 3 times more to you. In the previous case, we did not provide any weights to these weights or to the to your gears. Okay, but here we do it. So that is how you need to now express your objective function, and then you take the bike which has the highest utility. So here your utility is in terms of the weight as well as the gears. Okay, so in MADM you know up knowing which bike you like the most, that is the ranking, you do the ranking. Okay, but in MODM you actually end up knowing what bike you would need to build. Okay, that is your design approach. So it's a more of a design approach, that this is the optimal weight I will have, this is the optimal gear numbers I can have. But in MADM you can weight upon different options and you can rank down to in order to have your best bike. Okay, so this is how MADM and MODM functions. Now basically, if we talk in terms of the components, these are the basic components of a multi-criteria decision making system. Okay, so you will be having criteria, you will be having alternatives, you will formulate a decision matrix, Then how you will formulate a decision matrix, that also we will see down the line. So you need to have the data of all the criteria with respect to each of these alternatives. Once you have the decision matrix, in step number 4, you have to normalize. Now, what you mean by normalization? For example, cost is in some units, maybe in dollars, maybe in rupees. Tensile strength is in megapascal. It makes no sense in comparing the two data that is having different units. You cannot compare a cost with megapascal. Definitely no. So therefore, you need to normalize your data. Then the fifth stage is, after you normalize the data, you have to have a criteria weights. That is what I said. In the first step, you identify the performance measure or the criteria on the basis of which you are going to rank the alternatives. So your preferences, for example, in the previous example, what I told is the weight might be 3 times more important to you than the number of gears. So that is where the weight. So that means you are attaching 75% more weightage to the weight there and only 25% to the gears. And then finally, you use any of the available tools to rank your alternatives. There are various kind of normalization tools, and that is where their objective lies in. Similarly, you have different kind of weighting approaches. So you can have external methods, so you can have external methods without decision maker, or you can have without even without the involvement or with the involvement of decision maker. And then obviously you have the internal method. So we'll use one of the method in the down the line as we progress. So what are the different application? One definite example in this context, that is what we are going to talk on, is green material selection. Okay. Apart from that, there is a green supplier selection also. Then we have a sustainable renewable energy development, where you just find out which project will be the best for you. So in this context, you need to do certain survey. Then you always go with along green manufacturing, and then municipal solid waste management also you can do. Also you can find the suitability for the assessment of or for constructing any renewable energy based power plant. And then also you can have policy responses to the water shortage mitigation. So these are all the sustainable technologies onto which you can just apply all these decision making frameworks. So if you see the research, that is ongoing research, so 13,179 articles. So this has been taken from the Scopus database. So you can see the continual research trend that is going on, and it has peaked in around 2016 to 2020, and still it's peaking on. So there is a lot of research scope when you go and publish the articles using this MCDM approaches. Okay. So 13,179 articles, and that is where you can see the interdisciplinary context of this approaches or this decision support systems. So most of the thing you can see that engineering and computer science, around 20% of the articles of the 13,000, around 30,000 out 13,000 articles have been published within this domain. Apart from this, you are having other context as well. So today today I am going to discuss one of the MCDM tool. Step by step we will see how this methodology work and what this methodology is all about. So if you follow with me, you will be able to understand, and you can just devise your own codes also if you want, and you can work along with this. So if you see TODIM, where does it stands out of the 13,000 articles that have been published in the field of MCDM? So MCDM, this is one part of MCDM. Okay, TODIM. So you can see around 580 articles have been published, and that this has been taken from the Scopus database in TODIM approach. Okay, so around you can see that less than 5%, around 5%. No, sorry, yeah, 1%. That is 0.5% of articles only. So there is a reason behind it why also less. This methodology is one of the complex methodology when it comes to. So that is where why it is so, but the research is still continuing. So what are the top countries that are actually publishing? China is the topmost country, and after that it follows India. Okay. So India is the next country that is doing it. Okay. So if we if you talk about the top authors that are actually doing their research in this context, so you can see a lot many Chinese authors are there, and I am trying to actually compete with the Chinese here. So, but in China, a lot of research has been already done in this. Most of the articles come from China in this field. Okay, so here I stand and here my supervisor stands. So that is where a lot of scope potential still lies in TODIM. Okay, you can also be among the top authors if you are doing research in the TODIM. So, so let me move ahead. So what basically we are going to discuss is, let me now brief you the context. Okay, what is the how we can where the totem comes and why, what is its importance and what is its relevance. So it actually has its genesis from one of the theory that is known as the prospect theory. And now what is this prospect theory all about, and how does it relates to TODIM? So let us see. So Kahneman and Tversky in the year 1979, they both were the psychologists. So now you can make of this methodology actually copies or emulates how your brain functions while you are making the decision, and that is where it stands out idiosyncratically, or it stands out differentiately from the others MCDM approaches. So that is the unique aspect. And what are the unique aspect? It focuses more on how the decision maker brain functions while they are actually performing certain decisions. Okay, so that is where the methodology lies. And when you are choosing amongst the several alternatives, what you do is you will try to avoid the losses. Okay, so and you will surely optimize your wins. What I mean to say is, for example, if I ask you to trade in stock markets, obviously most of you will try to not to go into it. Why? Because you will see I might lose my money. Okay, so that might be one context. I'm not generalizing it. It might differ from one person to another. So therefore, that is where your psychologist comes into play. If I ask you, instead of a more safer option, what you would choose is you go with FD. Okay, because it would almost guarantee you some in source of income. So that is where you would try to avoid your losses, and that is how we function. Another example, if I speak of, is your insurance plans. Okay, how do health insurance plans you get? Because that is where you know that if you don't take it, then this is the cost. That is how much you might lose on financial grounds. So this is the prospect theory, how it actually describes looking into all these prospects and how people choose between the different options. So they have to estimate many times, but there are certain biases also involved in it. Okay, so for example, I spoke of the last one is the purchasing insurance plans. It is an excellent example of this approach. Okay, so what are the biases? Obviously, certainty is one bias. If you come across, then isolation effect is there, and then loss aversion. Now, let me speak on this. What is certainty? You will overweight certain options that are certain and that are risk averse for gains. For example, I spoke on FD and share market, or sorry, buying shares. What you will do, obviously, you will try to overweight FD over the other options. Okay, that might be a case. So to persuade the users so that you make a judicious choice, what you do is you would try to accept a small reward. For example, FD might guarantee anytime like 7.5% to something of that return. Okay, but if you go with the mutual fund, maybe with the equity one, we don't know, it might be 12%, but there the risks are higher depending upon in what where you make the diversification. Okay, so there is a mere chance of larger gain in terms of, for example, if you purchase some shares or if you go with mutual fund in comparison to the FD. So definitely what you will do is you will just take that as an investing option. Okay, so that is your certainty is there. That is what is visible to me. I want that gain to be in my pocket. That's it. That is guaranteed to me. So another example is if you write a product review. Okay, then another bias is regarding your isolation effect. So what does it mean? It there might be the case where you might ignore, or you might disregard the element elements that are common to both the options. Okay, so for example, you can see one illustration on the right hand side. There are two scenarios. Okay, you are given $1,000, and in scenario two you are given $2,000. So if you want to choose between two options, what are the two options? If you are given $1,000, there are two options. Is either there is a chance of having this 50%, that is you lose. If you wait on this particular option, that means you're having a 50% of chance of gaining $1,000. So if you gain $1,000, so this $1,000 plus this $1,000 makes gain of $2,000. But there is also, you can say that there is a 50% chance you lose all the money. That is, you don't gain anything. In that case, what you, if you don't gain anything, this $1,000 will be as it is, as $1,000. There is another option B, where they say that there is a 100% chance where you can build on $500, similar like the FD. Okay, so there are 100% chance that you win $500. Now what you will do is, I will ignore these options. Okay, but you can see, because I am guaranteed $500, so what you will do is you will choose this. But here the gains are very less in compared to this $2,000. So that is what it is known as isolation effect. Okay, so this is one effect, so that is known as your isolation effect. Now, apart from certainty and isolation effect, there is another context that is known as loss aversion. And now, what does that loss aversion actually mean? So, loss aversion is the best example is you want to lose, or your larger gains are there. You want to minimize the losses. That's it. So, for example, if you can see a picture on the right hand side of a cat, and you can see an insurance company and how they capitalize with it, they might say that your pet might incur so much cost if you don't take the insurance. Now what you do is, you want to minimize the loss, so certainly you will go and purchasing the insurance plan. So that is how actually these are certain the biases we people have, we have. Okay, so that is where certainty is there, isolation effect is there, and loss aversion is there. Now these are all related to our psychological processes, and there, that is where prospect theory comes in. It tries to take care of all this. Okay, so that is where now TODIM has its inception from prospect theory, and it is based on the adoption of a global measurement value. As you can see onto this map, this figure, that there is a loss and there is a gain. Out of this loss and gain only makes this all global measurement. So this is the global measurement value that we will be gaining. So we want to minimize the losses and we want to maximize the gains. That is where loss and gain effect comes here. Okay, so based on how effectively you are able to formulate any process in the face of a risk is where the TODIM approach lies, and that is where the global attribute function we have to build in while we are using the TODIM approach. So it is built in parts. Obviously there will be some decision experts, those will be not inclined to the losses, they only want gains. There might be some those who want to take some losses and maximize their profits. Okay, so that is where it is made up of some loss and gain functions. Okay, so this is where if you see this is how you formulate, first of all, a decision matrix, then you normalize the decision matrix, you obtain the criteria weights and the relative criteria weights, and that is where the chunk of the TODIM method lies. That is step number 4, 5 and 6. That is where it takes into account how the decision maker is thinking in the face of risk, or how the decision maker is biased in certainty, in isolation effect, or in this. Okay, so that is where it gives due consideration to the risk appetite, that is known as risk appetite of the decision maker. Now how this risk appetite is taken into this formulation, it is taken by theta. Now this theta can vary anywhere, and that is how we will see that how it is taking. So if it is like 0.1 to 1, it has already been established by prospect theory. So if you take it between 0.1 to 1, expert exhibit higher risk aversion, and so on and so forth. Okay, so 4, 5, 6 are the important chunks of the TODIM approach. Now let us see how we actually apply it to, and how we had applied to it in one of our case studies. Okay, so the agro waste green composites, I think most of us are working into composites also. Okay, so the thing is, most of for example, now agro waste are there. Now how much agro waste should I include while making the composite so that I yield a best composite from my end? Okay, Now, what agro waste we have used? We have used to build up for our green composite. So that is where the entire methodology lies. So we had used Punica granatum. Punica granatum is pomegranate. Okay, so pomegranate residue waste we had used to build up the composites. Okay, now what parameters we have taken in order to compare all this? So you can see on the screen. So first of all, we identify the list of the criteria. So we have taken tensile strength, tensile modulus strength, elongation at break, flexural modulus, and flexural strength. Okay. And how many alternatives did we compare? As you can see, there are 17 alternatives. We had built up various samples and 17. Okay. Now the thing is Punica granatum fiber. That is where PGF stands for. And we had different composition of this, and we had made some chemical treatment for 1 day, for 5 days, and for say 10 days. Okay, and we had used different weight fraction of 10, 20, 30, 40 in each of this context. So therefore we had 17 alternatives, and we had this composite specimen for this. Okay, then what next? As I spoke, you should have a decision matrix next. How the decision matrix will come? Until unless you have the data, you will not be able to build in the decision matrix. So since this is a new material composition, what we have to do is we have to go with some tests. That is in order to find out the tensile, that is tensile and flexural test we had conducted. Okay, and since I already spoke that TODIM is a complex approach, so instead of dealing with so many alternatives, it's better to scrutinize. So once you conduct the test, you will be able to find out like these are only the alternatives that needs to be compared amongst themselves, so that you can find out the best using the TODIM approach. Okay. So any doubts till this stage? If anyone is having, you can ask before I proceed further for the hands-on session. Okay. Is there any doubt?
Yeah, please participants, if you have any doubt, you to ask. Okay.
Okay. So let us proceed, sir. I think there are no doubts. Maybe you can note it down, and if you want to ask, you can ask towards the end of the session. Because once I start the hands-on session, then please follow on the steps that I will be uh, taking down this session. Okay. Okay. So let us proceed further. I think in chat box, no, sir. Okay. So this is how the told him this is how you can apply this methodology, and it can be in any context. Okay, I have just taken one example, that is of composite material. We have been also working on supply chain management also, and we have also been working on municipal waste management. Apart from that, renewable energy also we have been working on. So there are various contexts where you can do, but I have just taken one example. Okay. So you should know that what is the crux, and then you can apply anywhere. Okay, there is no restriction whatsoever. So we compare the tensile results. If you see that, so obviously with the material that is having a good strength and good modulus, and elongation and break should be minimized. So once you should see that, you can obviously have some differentiation between the alternatives. Okay, for example, obviously in every context, if you see PGF 5D, if you come down to PGF 5D, the blue curve, there the tensile strength is more better. Okay, if you go along with the Young's modulus here, even it is faring better. So green and blue curve, you can see they are faring better in every aspect. Okay, so that is where you can make a differentiation. And also with regard to the weight percentage, 30 40 are the 30 and I think 20 40 30 40 or 20 30 40 are the most prominent ones. If you come down to the Young's modulus, you obviously see 30 and 40. Here also 30 and 40 because it is more greater than the 20 weight percent. So you can make something of this the test that we have been conducted. Okay, also from the morphological analysis you can see, for example, if this is a raw agglomeration effect will be there. So obviously where there is a agglomeration effect, you will not be taking that composite into consideration. And if you have made the chemical treatment in such a way, for example 10 days you have made, but the thing is the fiber get destroyed. inside the matrix, obviously that will be no use. Okay, so that is where also you can make the differentiation. Also you can make the, if you want to go with the flexural strength, also you can go with the flexural strength data also, and there also you can compare the morphological, you can go with the micrograph or the morphological study as well. So that is where actually here the most the difficult task is to have the data. Okay, in most of these studies where you conduct the experiments are time consuming. Okay, you can have the data. There are certain studies, like if you go with like the deployment of say solar home lighting systems, and you will need to find out the effectiveness of that solution, then obviously you need to go with the users and you need to find out somehow, you need to collect the data from them. So that is all survey based. Okay, so once you do it, you will be obviously able to screen out the alternatives as we have done, and then you need to prioritize. So first of all, what we will see is how you will be able to normalize the data, then how you will be able to find out the weight and the relative weights, and then how you'll be able to rank through the TODIM approach. Okay, so that is how now we'll be saying. So I will just stop sharing at this moment this particular screen, and I will just share my Excel sheet. Okay. Just another 15 30 around 15-20 minutes I will take more, and please be attentive while we go with the hands-on session. Okay, this is my request. Okay, so I think everyone is able to see the Excel sheet.
Yes, sir. It's needed.
Okay, okay. So since being a late afternoon session, I decided to have one hands-on session so that it becomes a more practical approach. Okay, instead of just going about with the theoretical approach. Okay, so let us proceed and let us see. So are there any doubts up till this stage? Okay, well, now we will see. Okay, so these are some of the data that we had collected for the screen down materials. Okay, and that is the Young modulus, tensile strength, elongation rate, flexural modulus, and flexural strength. Okay, so if you go with this, so what you want to do is you will obviously try to maximize the Young's modulus, okay, and tensile strength and flexural modulus and flexural and so on. Okay, now I spoke of normalization previously. Now what does that normalization means? Normalization means Young's modulus, tensile strength, obviously they will be having different units. Okay, you cannot we it's not feasible to compare. So what we do is we compare all this data into a unit scale. Okay, where it makes comparison of some certain sense. So we follow normalization process here. So this step actually is known as normalization. Okay, so that is where it is known as normalization process. So what you do is there are different techniques available for the normalization, and even what we there are certain research articles also that have actually done their research thoroughly on the normalization techniques only. Okay, so if you wish, you can also carry out that research. So how you do the normalization, there are different approaches to it. I means you can use different approach depending upon the data you are having. Okay, why I am saying that, you will realize in just 5 minutes why the type of normalization actually depends from context to context. So normalization is a precursor to finding out the weight of these criteria like Young's modular, tensile strength and all. Okay, so there are certain formulas that are already there. You can plug in those formula. This sheet has been already prepared by me. So for this particular case, this is I think linear based normalization technique that I will utilize here. Okay, so what you do is you have to plug in this formula, that is let me brief you on this first this so that it becomes, so you start with the equal to sign. And then what you do is you select the cell for which the normalization has to be done. So this is the data, that is B4 cell, and then you divide. Okay, and once you make a division of this, so you have to divide with what? You have to take the summation of the square roots of all this. Okay, so that means what you do is, first of all, you take the squared values, you sum all this. So you need to take the summation of the squared value. So you need to write the square here as first of all you can write as this. Instead of doing that, you can just select the value. Okay, and you can just make it as let me refer to the this formula sheet. Oh, sorry, I clicked on the other cell. Okay, so you have to sum the squares. So what you do is that data gone, so that is where you divide this and you take the sum of the squares. So that is ISMQ, sum of the squares of what values now you will be taking. So this particular thing, now you need to fill, you need to take the square of this, and in every calculation this square value needs to be constant. Okay, so that is where it is known as fixing of the your 4 to 9 rows. Okay, I'm not fixing the column. Why? Because the thing is, same thing I can replicate down the line for the other columns. Okay, so now after that I need to take the square root of this. So this will give me I forgot to close down the bracket here. So that is, once you take this, then you take the so once you take that, and this is in case if you are having a non-beneficial criteria. Now what I meant by non-beneficial criteria, the criteria for which you need to minimize. Okay, for example, the cost, you want to lower the cost. So this formulation what I wrote is for the non-beneficial criteria. Now since Young's modulus will be beneficial, this is where the formula will change. You just need to provide a 1 minus before the entire thing, and just need to scroll down, everything else will be calculated here. And once you do that, what you do is, if every of this is like for example beneficial criteria, that means this particular formula will be same for this particular column, that is for this set of values, for this set of values. And that is where I did not fix, if you see the formula, I did not fix B column, I have not fixed, only I have fixed this set of data, that is from 4 to 9. Okay, now once you do that, what nothing you need to, you just need to scroll down so that you get all the values. Okay, now that is the first part, and that is where the normalization process has been completed. Once you do that, now the next process actually entails, or that is known as nothing, but you need to calculate the weights. Okay, that is the weights of the criteria as well as the relative weights. Okay, so that is another distinction of the TODIM approach. Why we actually different methods, you will see they only calculate the weights, but in the TODIM approach we also calculate the relative weights, so that in certain cases, if some criteria has been weighted more and then you feel that no, this is not how the process should work, so instead of going with the weights, you just work with the relative weights. Okay, so how you calculate, here I am approaching using the entropy approach. Okay, so entropy approach I am going to follow here, so that we can arrive at the criteria weights. Okay, so how you do that, these are all the calculation. First of all, you just, what you do is let me delete this value. So what you do is you click on the value in the normalized value, and then you multiply with the log of this particular, that is the natural log of this particular value. Okay, once you do that, then you will be having this value. So that is what you have to do. What you have to do is you multiply the value with the natural log of its own value. So, and then you drag it down, and once you drag it down, now all the cells will be filled it down. So that is the first approach, sorry, the first step towards the weight calculation. Once you do that, what you do is you make the summation of all this. I have done the summation, so what you do is you just make the summation of the respective columns values. Okay, and once you do it, you just need to drag it down so that all the values are being calculated. So Excel I am using because most of us are familiar with Excel. Otherwise, you can use even Python also if you want, and you can code it down. Okay, so for larger context, like for fuzzy approaches, we usually go with the Python approach. Then what you do is you just make the summation of all this value into this particular cell. So that is not sorry, this cell is actually what, how many criteria you are having, 1 2 3 4 5. So you take ln log of the number of criteria, so 5 criteria are there, and that is actually nothing but 1 divided by ln of 5. Once you do that, what you do, how this value is coming, you just make a equal to sign, and then you take this value and you divide by the value that you got in the subsequent cell, but you need to fix this value. So I have fixed that value, and then you have this uh, particular thing. So if you see, the same calculations are coming for the other context, other values also. Okay, so there will be absolutely, there are some minute changes might be there. Okay, so this is okay. Here again, this is okay. Here, this is again okay. Here, if we see, this is okay. Okay, so you just need to drag it down. So you can drag it down and you can have these values. And once you do that, then again what you need to do is you need to have equal to 1 minus, these all steps are mentioned here. So you just make this and you just again drag it down. Once you drag it down, you take the summation of all these values here in this column, and now what you do is you just have equal to, and you divide this particular value with what, with this value. So you get the weights of the criteria. One thing you need to note here is the summation of all the weights. So that is where if you don't fix this cell, that is where the error will come. Okay, so it is better and advisable to fix the cell for which the division has to be done. So one thing you need to make sure that this summation should be always 1. If it is not, then that means this particular normalization tool will not work for you. Another thing is all the weight values should be positive. In certain cases, I have seen few instances where around after applying like even 10 normalization processes also, we were not able to get these positive values. So you need to then try on to the other normalization process. So once you find out the relative criteria, this criteria weights. So what does this mean? If I converted this into the percentage, what I mean to say is every criteria, if there are means more or less they have a equal bounding, but if you try to minutely consider, so what you see is most focus will be on your elongation at break. It depends upon also the application area that you're using. So if you're going with some particular application area, then you can also provide the subjective weights. Okay, now what I told you is after doing this, we have to calculate the relative criteria weights. How we are doing it, we just have to take the maximum of all this and we need to divide the individual weight. Okay, so that is how we get the weight and the criteria, relative criteria weight. So is there any doubt regarding this process? You can just ask before I proceed towards the ranking phase. Okay, is there any doubt? I hope you might be following with me. Okay, so this is where your criteria weights you can calculate. Now we move on to the ranking phase. Okay, so now I will start sharing how you actually rank these alternatives using the TODIM approach. Okay, so now let us see. Now what you can do is I will share the sheet once again. That is for ranking now. Okay. So that is where the TODIM sheet, ranking sheet. Okay. Now, if you move on to the alternative one, now how it has to be done, that is what we will see it. Okay. So these are your alternatives. And if you can go and if you want to avoid any confusion, you can link this sheet with the normalization sheet. So I have linked this. So you can see that I have already linked with the normalization. That means whatever the normalization data was there, okay, that is where it has come here automatically. So you just need not to copy from that particular sheet and then paste it here. You can just click on once the cell value from there, and then obviously you can have all the values. So these are all the normalization values that are coming over here. Okay, after normalization, this criteria weights and relative criteria weights will be playing much of the importance. Okay, now let me first of all revert back to the formula. Let me copy paste the formula for the TODIM approach here, and why we are doing all this calculation. As I said you, 4, 5, 6 forms the major chunk. Okay, without 4, 5, 6 and that formulation, there is no importance of TODIM approach. So that is the where the big chunk of the formula is. Okay, so I have pasted here. So let me so this is nothing but whatever the criteria weights we had and the relative criteria weights we had. So this is, I think, so that is where. So how you link it, let me also have. So this was a weight value, so you can just go back to your this particular sheet and you can paste the weight values if you want, because these are small right now in a small quantity. But if it is of large number, then it is obviously better to club all. Okay, so I have pasted the values from my previous sheet and also of the relative criteria. Okay, so that the last two rows that we had done for the calculations. So that is where we are now pasting that data as it is. Okay, okay, now you just see focus, let us focus on this particular chunk of formula. First of all, step number 4 says that you need to obtain the dominance score. Now what is this Pij minus Pkj? Anyone? Yeah, that is what it is. Nothing. You are first of all comparing alternative number one in this sheet with regard to all the other alternatives. Likewise, we need to build up the sheets for other alternatives. Okay, so that is where the complexity lies. So how many sheets we need to build? 6 Excel sheets you need to build before you go with the results. Okay, each sheet will be belonging to each of the alternatives. So this sheet belongs to A1. What we have to do is we have to compare first of all this Pij minus Pkj. We want to see whether it will be coming as greater than 0, equal to 0, less than 0. Then accordingly we will be applying our formula in context. Okay, so what I mean to say is you compare A1 value under C1 with A2 value under C1. That means you make a subtraction of this value. So if you make a subtraction of that value, that is B3 minus B4. So if you click on this particular cell, what it is reflecting, B3 minus B4. So likewise, we have to do the calculation here. You don't find A1, okay, in this particular this. So this cell will be comparing each of the alternative with A1 only. So if you click on this particular C, you will see the cell, it is comparing A3 with A1. Okay, likewise we have to do for the other alternatives, and here is what we will get, whether Pij minus Pkj is greater than 0, less than 0, or equal to 0. All the red cells are what they are negative values. So for less than 0 values, please be aware we have to apply this particular formula, that is 1 by theta. Okay, now what is this WJR? WJR is nothing but WCR here, so I will just mention it as WJR only. So that is WJR. Okay, and what you do is you just need to place in the formula. So that is WJR into Pij. So that is multiplication, sorry, of Pij minus this. So what you do is now you come across here. Okay, so these are what are your values, A2, A4. You paste these values here, and this is what already the formula has been fed up, so you need not do accordingly. So if the cell value in B27 is equal to 0, then the value it will take is what, you just concentrate onto the formula bar as of now, please. If B27, that is the cell value in B27 is 0, the value that will be returned to us by the formula will be 0. In case it is not 0, then it will check whether it is greater than 0, so that is greater than 0, or whether it is less than 0. If it is greater than 0, then obviously the square root formula will be applied, that is the first formula will be applied. But if it is less than 0, then the other formula will apply. And here is what theta is there. Okay, so theta, you can place the cell value. So I have placed that M34 if you are following. Okay, so you can place it here. So formulas, that is how you need to feed in the formula. And once you do it, you just need to drag it down. Once you drag it down, what you see that the calculations have been done for this part. Okay, so that means the major chunk of the formula we had calculated here. Once we do that, then what we need to do is we need to go with the other one, that is the other formula. Now what are the other formula in this context? So the step number 5 and 6. So if you were following, what is step number 5 and 6? It is nothing but the summation of all the values that you have got. Okay, so what we have got, we have got these values. What you do is you provide a summation here. So respective summation, that is nothing but respective summations, and you just drag it down, and then once again you have a value of the summation values. Okay, so these are nothing but that is how A1 is faring in comparison to others. Okay, so that is where we get the prospect. This is nothing that is known as the dominance score. Okay, so likewise, now you need to build up the sheet for A2. So A2, what you do is you have this build up already ready now. Okay, so you need not to copy everywhere. What you do is you just click equal to, you go with A1 sheet, you just press enter. Already the data will be taken care of. Okay, so that is where A1 to A6 is there, and already this has been fed up. So you just need to drag it down to have the data here. Now data is here, so you just delete the data from here. Okay, here also everything is taken from A1 only. You need not to do anything. Only the adjustment that you need to make is, now instead of A1, this will be what? This sheet belongs to what? A2. So here, if I ask you what all values will be there will be A1, there will be A3, then you will be having A4, that is alternative 4, and then you just drag it down. So I have your 5 6. This formula is nothing has to be done, you just need to drag it down, and so that is all. So calculations can be made easy if we work smartly over here. So here what we do is again this belongs to A2, so that should be clear to you. Okay, so again where formulas are in place, you just need to drag it down. You drag it down here, every calculations have been done, and here you can see another value coming for alternative 2. Similarly, now you go to sheet number A3. Okay, here also now it is linked already to A1, so you need not to do anything. Only this part I had not linked. You can also link this nomenclature part as well. So once you go with this, even if you will want to link the second one also, you can link. Okay, because whatever the values you are feeding in, automatically it is taking care. So here you just drag it down, then again you drag it down here, and then you come down. Now this sheet actually belongs to what? It belongs to A3. That should be in our mind. So once we do that, you will not see A3 coming here in the calculation because it is for A3 only, A4, A5, then A6. You should be cautious while dragging down. Why? Because you need to see what values we are comparing. So we are comparing A3 with other. Okay, then only you drag it down. So once you see that okay, this is correct, then you drag it down here. So again this formula here, again what you write is write is A1 A2 A4 A5 6. Again you drag it down, again you drag it down here, and you find out this value. Okay, so again you will be having it for what? Now A3. Now again you need to make a sheet for what? A4. Once you make a sheet for A4, what all changes we need to make? This only portion I did not club it. It is always advisable to club each and every element of the first sheet, although you can. So now this sheet belongs to what? It belongs to A4. So that is where complexity. If the number of alternatives are 20, then we need to build on 20 Excel sheets. So that is where you can see that people are not working here because of the complexity that is involved. So now here it will be what? A3, then here it will be what? A5, and here it will be A6. Okay, so that is where we have the sheets. Now nothing, you need to just drag it down, and again you need to drag it down. Automatically all the values will be taken care here. So if you paste it here, again it will be the same thing, nothing has to be done. So that is where if you try to simplify the calculation, you can make calculations for any number of alternatives. So this is for A4. I don't have a sheet for A5. What I do is I just make a copy of this particular sheet. After A4 I will add another sheet. So this is where another sheet gets added. And now what this sheet will belong to what? First of all, you need to highlight. So this will be belonging to what? A5. So you just highlight A5 here. And once you do that, I think this will, first of all, you rename here, otherwise there will be all lot of confusion here. And once you do that, now what all we have to do is, I think this is where you need to see what values are being compared. So that is what I said. It is showing B6, but we should have B7 here. Okay, so we should have B7 instead of B6. So what you do is you drag it down further, and if you do it, B7 is getting compared with. So what is the mistake we have done? A5 is getting compared here. Okay, so here instead of B7, what value will be having? B8. Okay, because we are comparing with the last alternative. So you just drag it down here, and rest again, this is A4, it will come because there is no A5. So all the values, I think, since we had made a copy of it, so you just see whether the values are replicated. No, so values are being taken now. Okay, now once you do that, I think the calculations for A5 has also come. So that is how easier it is. Now you go with, you just make a copy, another one of A5, you create a copy and you place it after A5. This will be what now? You rename it to A6. So this is what the subtle modification you need to make it while you are making it for different alternatives. Now this sheet belongs to what? It belongs to A5. That's it. Now you will be having, sorry, here in the previous sheet also the nomenclature you need to take care. It was A4. Here in A6 it will be A4 and then A5. Rest all everything remains the same. So here again what you do is A5. I think formulas are coming up. So again A5 will be here. Sorry, A4 be here and A5 will be here. And again, so that is where we need to see. 0.1924, and here what it will be, here only the values will be changing because now B7 will be not there, instead of B8 will be there, this value will be there. Okay, so that is where you need to be cautious, otherwise every value will be the same. Okay, so B83, and then you drag it down and further you push it down here. So now you will see the changes in values automatically reciprocating here. Okay, once you do that, then you move on to the result sheet, and this also what you can do is you can link up. Okay, whatever the results you are getting everywhere, you just try to link up. So this I linked up with the result that we got in A1, then we got in A2, A3, A4. Now another value will be coming here that will be relating to your A5. So this is A5, and then another value will be belonging to what one? That is A6. So that is A6. Formatting, if you want, you can do it later, only that is for decoration purpose, for your own understanding. You make it beautiful, whatever you want. Okay, and then what you do is you just drag this formula. Okay, now this formula is what, if you go to the TODIM one, you will see that this formula is there, and that is where you need to put in on all this, and you see that the what we are ranking is, we are ranking this particular cell. Now the values will be from C2 to C7. Okay, and if you drag it down, ranks will come 1, 3, 2, 5, 6, 4. For me, what is the best alternative? Alternative number 1. So that is how you need to work with this TODIM approach. So if there is any doubt, please you can raise the questions.
Please, participants, take active participating in the question answer. If you have any doubt, please be free to ask. Even chat box is open for a question answer.
So that is where the big chunk of the formula is actually having its weightage, and that is where most of the concentration has to be done. So this is my contact. In any case, if you want to have some collaborative research work, you are most welcome to it, not only in this field, but as I said, it is interdisciplinary. Okay, so we can apply it to anywhere. So apart from this, if you don't have the quantifiable data any day around, not this time because we are short of time, so maybe like we will try to include also some fuzzy values and then we will see how it becomes more and more complex. Okay, so that is not only the end. Now there might be certain questions whether the ranks that are coming are more appropriate. Then obviously you need to conduct the sensitivity analysis. Now what I mean by the sensitivity analysis, in this particular formula, if you will see, I kept on talking of theta. Theta is where the risk appetite is there. Now this theta value can be changed. I already spoke of this theta. It can be 0.1, it can be 1, it can be 2, it can be 5, it can be 10. So you need to repeat those calculations using this different theta values, and then you need to find out whether your ranking results are changing or how stable they are. So this is the first aspect. In the second aspect also, what you will see is, so criteria weights, it might depend upon my perception. Surely it can depend on your perception. It can depend upon any expert opinion also. Then how is my ranking reliable with regard to the weights? Obviously you can do another analysis on that. You can change your weights, or you can interchange, you whatever weights you want to put, you can put in, and you can conduct different tests and you can find out the ranking results. If you see there are stable, less variation is there, obviously the ranking that you have got is reliable. Then another thing you need to do is, we need to see if I apply my particular algorithm to other case studies that have been solved by other approaches in the past, what is the result it is yielding. And if it is yielding altogether a different result, then you need to justify it. So that is where, if you see, lot many research prospects are there. um, uh, so we can obviously work on this. So since there is some time, what I will do is I will just show you, like in what context we have done it. So Nitin sir, do we have time? Like I will just take another 5-10 minutes. So we just know that if we make like how complex it can go. So let me share few of my research articles only. So if you go with this, then what you will find in the recent context only. See, even to microgrid systems also we have done. Then composites we have been doing it. For metal air batteries also we have done. But I wanted to show you one article where actually we can have this extended TODIM. Yeah. So in this composite context now, I am just briefing you that how it can go like uh, more complex. So here what we did is we actually had the same thing only, same agro waste only. Okay, but the thing is, instead of taking this quantitative properties, what we had done in this article is we had also taken a few of the other parameters. Okay, now uh, let me pull in the article. Just wait. Just give me a few moments. Okay, I'll just bring down that article.
Sir, I'm having one doubt.
Yes, please, sir.
How can you check the consistency of your decision?
Yeah, so that is why I spoke 5 minutes back. There are different parameters. It's altogether a statistical approach. So what you do is theta. Now theta is where the foundation is there. Okay. Now I spoke initially of this term. I think you might have been there during that particular 2 minutes, or where I briefed on this theta. So if you just keep on changing this theta, you will be having different results. I don't know. You need to check out what is the variation of the ranking results on the basis of this theta. If you find that the ranking results are somewhat stable means more or less you will find it is almost stable only. That means there is some consistency with regard to this one parameter. So whatever the variable parameters are there, you have to have a thorough analysis onto all these parameters. I am coming on to it. So that is where theta was only the one variable in our context. Okay, if you see if you see in this particular context also, weight is also some subjective. Okay, but here I also calculated using entropy approach, but it may be a subjective preference also. Now you might say, sir, if I provide x weight, you provide y weight, whether my ranking result will change? You have to have an analysis. You go with the analysis, you see, if I change one weight by 20%, another by weight 40-60%, what will be my change in ranking results? And that is where you will find out the consistency. So you have to have a comprehensive evaluation on all the variable parameters that are included into your approach, and then only you will be able to find out whether my ranking result is consistent. Is it
Yeah,
okay, sir?
there is one more approach given in HP also
Yeah.
to find out the consistency ratio.
Yes.
You can find out the consistency
Yeah,
ratio.
yeah,
That will
definitely.
be that will be very simple approach to consider to take the decision matrix. Correct?
Yeah, you can do
Yeah.
always that. But the thing is, if my for example, if I am using TODIM approach, okay, and if I am matching my consistency using AHP, reviewer will question why you are using AHP. Since your approach is
Yes.
TODIM, why you are using a AHP? That means you are
Oh,
relying more on AHP instead of going with
yes.
TODM. So that might be
Correct.
one of the probable question. So what you can do is you can club AHP with TODM in that context. Okay. So there are different provisions you can do. So that is one you have rightly pointed out, but that is where reviewer point out the comments. Okay.
Yeah,
When we
there are
give the
many
article.
MEDM methods
Yeah,
for
yeah,
selection.
you can do it.
So you can implement many methods for one problems, and you can
Sure,
compare the
sure,
ranking.
sure, you
You
can
can
do that
compare the
also.
ranking.
You can do
Otherwise,
what?
the reviewer can ask any type of question like that.
Yeah,
Whatever you
so
said now.
that is what I said. So if you are comparing, that is also you need to compare your results. But do we know that Topsys will yield the best result for me? We don't know. We never know.
It cannot be like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
any
yeah,
methods can give
we
you a
cannot.
different
So that is
ranking.
where you can see 13,000 articles. Still,
Yeah.
the wheels are rolling because of some lacuna here and there. Okay.
You're right. Right.
And we need to find out, sir, these lacunas where we can make this research keep
Correct.
on rolling. So there are different contexts where we can do it.
Yes, sir.
So
I'm also working on these MEDM
great,
methods
sir. Great, sir.
and MODM methods. But
Great, sir.
one more doubt in my mind
Yeah,
always,
yeah,
ki,
yeah.
what are the drawbacks of these MEDM methods?
So that is what you pointed out, that how you can rely on your ranking results. Either you go and validate it. Okay, that is the first drawback. That is what you have. Another drawback is if you don't take your criteria measures accurately, and
Yeah.
your criteria measures, if you have not taken comprehensively, definitely your rankings will be somewhat different.
Definitely.
So that
Yeah.
is why I wanted to bring out that particular article in this context. So I will just share that article so that I think most of your questions will be answered. Okay. So 5 criteria I compared this time. I considered, okay, these were all qualitative as we have seen. But as I spoke, there might be some criteria as well where where you need to have a this subjective opinion of your experts. Okay. So that is where you need to consider comprehensively all those performance measures. Then only you can arrive at some rank. So let me share that article.
Okay. Thank you.
So,
Yeah.
so maybe I may be able to answer your question in that regard. Okay. Just share my screen and. Okay. So I think that's not Zoom meeting and yeah. Where is that article? Yeah, here it is. Okay, so that is where I said this is a TODIM approach only, but we have to modify it using some of the fuzzy sets. Okay, now why fuzzy? Again, I said some of the criteria measures that we considered during this article, or some of the performance measures, they were actually what? They were some subjective. Now you can see the list of criteria, sir. Economic indicator, environmental indicator, technical indicator. In my analysis, I only consider technical indicator. Did I consider social? No. Did I consider environmental? No. Did I consider economic indicator? No. Now, if you
we
want
need to
to,
consider the important attributes.
yeah. So that is where. So apart from this, there can be other criteria as well. So that depends upon your experts that are involved during this decision making approach. For me, socio-culture indicator, for example, labor availability, I have taken into account. Why I have taken labor availability? Can you answer, sir? So until unless you have a dedicated labor doing or the fabrication of my component, not only the fabrication process, but right from its sourcing till the production, so I should have a labor availability. Okay, so it's a beneficial criteria for me. More the labor, more the employment opportunity I will be able to generate. Okay, but I have taken it in only in the context of manufacturing phase. So that is what I am saying. So you have to list down as many as criteria as possible, and you have to find out the nature of this. Okay, now labor availability, how can you judge? How can you quantify designer knowledge? You cannot do it. You have a qualitative stance for it, and there, that is where the fuzzy sets get involved. Okay, now we have given justification for each and everything and how we had arrived all this data. That is where some surveys had to be conducted with regard to the socio-culture indicators, and only then only you can able to find out. For the environmental indicators, you can go with the life cycle analysis. For economic indicator, then you have to have a total cost and the market value analysis. Okay, so that is where you have to have a fuzzy approach here. Now once we did that, now that is where I am speaking on the consistency of my results. Okay, so for this particular study, you can see theta equal to 0.1, theta equal to 1, theta equal to, there was another variable parameter, that is the confidence level. So for the confidence level also we had to check the ranking. Okay, so that is where the comprehensive evaluation you have to do, and you have to find out the variation. So you can see if you plot out the variation, almost there is consistency in the result, but since there is an effect of theta, obviously at later stage you might say that there are some only subtle instability you will find. Okay, so that is one, that is where the test and validation comes. Okay, and again then you have to have correlation by changing the values of the attenuation factor we did. Then by changing the impact of correlation parameter, there was another parameter omega, there was another parameter neta. Then I had also, we had done it using some illustrative past studies also we had done. So that is how my methodology, if I apply to past case study, what will be the results? If the results are not matching, why it is not matching? Further analysis, comparative analysis. There will be certain limitation as I spoke, and obviously there will be certain advantages. We need to clearly bring out those limitations and advantages so that we can include, or the other research community can involve also into this field. Okay, so that is where the length of the article goes in. So almost when we submitted this was around 40 to 45 pages. Okay, after proofreading and all, it came down to 20 pages. So that is where on Soul algorithm also we had actually published it, but it has altogether a different point of presentation. Okay, so that is how we actually have to see regarding the consistency of the ranking results. Okay, so that is where most of the analysis goes into this part. Hope, sir, I am able to address your query. If you still have doubt, you can just come in again.
No, sir. Understood. Thank you very much.
Yeah, yes. Any other query is there, you can just go on. Because what
Sir, you can brief about MODM method also in short, so that people will came to know about the use of MODM
actually
methods.
my research background does not go to MODM, so
Okay.
my forte is only in this aspect. So
Oh,
sorry
no
for
issues.
that. So that is where I am working currently. So sorry that I will not be able to
Yeah,
brief
no,
on that
no
as well.
issues.
Yeah. So it looks like simple, like if you just put in the data what you are doing, some might feel it, we are just feeding in the data, but that data itself, it depends upon how you precisely are getting it. Okay, and what level, or for example, if I talk about want to find a probable site for municipal waste disposal, and that has been done by my UG students only. Okay, so they have done it. How you find out? So for that, you also require other tools also in order to gather the data. They have used GIS, other tools in order to find out the probable sites, and then what are the criteria that we have to measure. Okay, so obviously this can be done. It's like it depends upon our perception where we want to take it. Okay, so that is how MCDM is going on, and still it's a research topic. Okay, so thanks from my side. If you and thanks for your patience hearing. I hope that I had done justice to my talk during this, and try to make it actually not boring, but some intrusive talk, so that you might gain some insight into how particularly TODIM is working and how you can actually employ it. So most of the time we also hear the reviewer comments. I have experienced few of the reviewer comments. This is just a methodology. You are not doing anything. So that is how we need to answer accordingly. Okay. So that is where the roadblock lies, like where we can find out the lacuna and where we can work on with regard to the sustainable technologies. Okay, so thanks a lot for all of from my side, and also thanks to the conveners for providing me an opportunity to share my research insights. And beyond this, I request the participants to stay in touch. If you feel like having a collaborative work, you can just ping me anytime. Okay, I will be available to sort out all your queries as well. Okay, so thanks a lot. Nitin sir, Nitin sir.
Hello, sir. Zindani, sir. Am I audible?
Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah,
You looking all right, sir?
yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Can I leave the meeting or
Yeah, yeah. I think no, no, wait, sir. We will close. Office will close. Yeah.
okay?
Once again, it's request to all participants. If you have any doubt, please once again open it and please be free to ask. I think we given sufficient time. Okay. So on this note, we can proceed for a closing ceremony, sir.
Yeah, sure, sir.
So. Yes, sir. You spoke so many things, sir. Even given hands-on training also, and I hope this will be very beneficial for all participants, those are working in that particular area, and that will give you some highlights for their future upcoming goals also to achieve that. And on this note, I would like to once again thank you to you, sir, and from a family of Swedish College of Engineering, we are really happy to have you on this session. And really, we are really grateful for your talk, sir. Thank you so much again.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot.
Yes, sir. So it's my request to all participants. You can leave the meeting right now. No. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's a short what do you say? Notice for all participants that tomorrow we have one session on patent, and particularly for that, that chief guest for that session is going to give you hands-on training for that file patenting, and for that requirement is that e-signature is there, and for that purpose you have to carry your own Aadhaar card number and PAN card number. If you are interested for that practice, be ready with that Aadhaar card and PAN card number. So we can proceed for that as per that hands-on training. So for tomorrow session, 2 o'clock. Yes. Thank you. So now I will declare officially this session got over. You can let the meeting.